I was the first black person to join Surrey Police. It was the early 80s, a time of intense race-related disturbances across the country.
In the heart of the city, pitched battles between police and hundreds of mainly black youths had raged all night.
Blamed on the over-policing of young black men and the use of sus laws.
Young West Indians are 50% more likely to be stopped.
Which were the forerunner to today's stop and search. People in the black community are again victim to an overly aggressive use of stop and search. Today's policing style has gone backwards. There are some key principles that the police need to be reminded of.
Keep happening to me, man.
Stops need to be based on actual information, not on how someone looks.
No.
Of course, people should know why they're being stopped, and stop and search needs to be transparent and accountable.
No, what do you mean placed in custody?
Throughout my 35-year service, I know many police forces use stop and search to target people who fitted their stereotype of what an offender looked like. Young, black and male. But I believe today is the worst I have ever known it, because now you don't even need to fit that stereotype. Today, it seems to me that just being black makes you a suspect.
My son is in the car. I don't want you to look after him. My son is in the car. No.
We have seen Olympic athletes stopped for no good reason.
We look suspicious.
Middle-aged people stopped whilst outside their family house. And even an MP stopped on their way to Sunday lunch.
You know, we should be able to drive wherever we want.
It's all led to rising anxiety in black communities.
Everyone looks the same as far as you're concerned.
Who feel targeted and harassed. That's the police station. I rose through the ranks in 3 forces. I led the Met Police Stop and Search team for 3 years. And on secondment to the Home Office, I helped to rewrite the country's stop and search rules. At the time, guns were a major part of gang violence. We used stop and search intensively to help control it. So more than anyone, I know stop and search is crucial to reduce violent crime. But right now, this sophisticated tactic is being used like a blunt tool. And this is traumatising rather than protecting the community. My concern is that racial discrimination, even institutional racism, is affecting the way officers do stop and search.
He was purposely pulling back my arm and pulling back the handcuffs.
So it gets tighter?
So it gets tighter and tighter and tighter.
No. What they stopped you for, their details. Dean Davies was stopped a few weeks ago, and like so many others, the way he says he was treated by the police clearly goes against the stop and search framework that I helped write.
All I can say is I was ambushed. One officer just come and grabbed me by my arm.
Yeah.
He was bending my arm back. He was putting all these brute force into it until another officer then came in and helped him. I've asked, what is this for? All I heard from him was stop resisting, stop resisting.
Were you asking him to explain to you why they were stopping you,
right,
why they were putting handcuffs?
Right.
Which is legitimate?
Yeah.
Okay, but they didn't explain to you.
Not at all.
It could have been drugs, it could have been money, it could have been a firearm.
Yeah.
So there could be firearms, which could be an offensive weapon, which might mean the officer then wants to protect himself, which he puts the handcuffs on you. Did the officer ever say to you what he was looking for?
No.
Did he ever say what you suspected?
No.
Did he ever give any indication that you were a threat or a risk to him?
No.
If the officer would have done it properly enough, if I was the one stopping you, I'd have told you my name and I've told you exactly what I suspected and what I was going to search you for and how far I'm going to go with the search. You'd have known all those things. If the officer had done it the way that I'd explained, would that have made any difference to the way you felt about the stop?
It would have made a huge difference. And the reason, number one, why it would have made a big difference, you would have talked to me as I'm a human being, as I'm an equal.
Stop and search is a tactic designed to allay suspicion that a person has stolen property or offensive weapon on them. So the officer should be having a conversation with the person, not just dive in and before you know it, get the handcuffs out, as so often seems to happen at the moment. Added to this, we have Section 60 rules. This means the police can stop anyone without suspicion based on the area they happen to be in. The use of Section 60 has dramatically increased in the last 2 years, which is criminalising entire communities. Too many black people who've never committed any crime are being stopped. Finally, Stop and search can get out of control unless it is closely monitored by independent organisations. Working closely with outside groups reduces tension between police and communities, and it creates trust in police impartiality. My call to the police is to bring real accountability back to the use of stop and search. Let's get the public behind the important work of crime prevention and allow officers to use the tactic with confidence.
Well, to discuss the issues raised in that film, I'm joined now by Metropolitan Police Commander Jane Connors, who is the head of violence reduction, which oversees stop and search, and Sace Holmes-Lewis, a community activist who's helped train Metropolitan Police officers. Commander Connors, do you accept any of what Victor Elisa has just said about what you're getting wrong when it comes to stop and search?
So stop and search is a really important tactic. Our job is to keep people safe, and that's why we do stop and search, particularly around weapons and violence. So those are the key reasons that we do stop and search. We work closely with our communities to ensure that when we do stop and search, the encounters that we have are positive, and we work closely with the community to make sure that we do have positive interactions with the people that are stop and searched.
Yes, but do you accept any of what he's just said about how you're getting it wrong? How the officers' judgments are wrong and that their interactions are wrong? Do you accept any of that?
So we do over 250,000 stop and searches a year, and our complaints rate is very low. It's about 1%. So I accept that there is always room for improvement, and we will absolutely make sure that we work with our officers to understand the impact that it has on the community and work with the community to improve in those areas. But our officers work really hard to work with the community and to make sure that we do get positive interactions when we do stop and search.
I'm still not clear on what the answer is to my first question. Do you accept any of his criticisms or not?
So there's always room for improvement. We will do stop and search because we want to take weapons off the street.
Yes, of course there's always room for improvement in every service, but he's made specific criticisms. Do you accept those specific criticisms about the way officers are approaching black people?
I don't agree with the criticisms. We work really hard with our officers to make sure that they understand the impact that stop and search has, and work closely with our communities to make sure that we can build that trust, which is really important to enable us to have a really positive interaction and build that trust with our communities.
Because I've interviewed your boss, the Commissioner, Cressida Dick, and she refuses to say that there is institutional racism behind any of these problems. And the question really is there institutional denial?
I don't believe that we're institutionally racist. I don't believe that our officers provide a lesser service based on somebody's colour or their culture or their ethnicity. I believe that we're a very positive service. We want to do the best for the public. We want to keep the public safe. And we want to make sure that we work really closely with our communities. We have community members who come in and view body-worn video of stop and search, so they can actually see the interactions from start to finish, and then they can give us feedback and tell us how we can improve or give us praise when we do well. We have community members that come out on ride-alongs with our officers, again to understand what we're doing and to work with us. And we have community members that are involved in our training who come and speak to officers, particularly people with lived experience, about how stop and search affects them and how stop and search affects those communities. And that's really important because we want to understand that so we can improve and work with our communities and build that trust, which is so important.
Well, let's bring in one of those people who does work with you and has worked with you, Sace Holmes-Lewis. What's your experience and what would you say to the Commander?
I fully disagree with the Commander in terms of the complaints. Obviously 1%, we don't have trust in the police, that's why we don't complain. And that's an issue within itself. And that's just reflective of the fractious relationship between the Black British community and the Met Police. And obviously it's the outdated rhetoric of obviously guns, drugs and weapons. And the problem is that for us now is that you're using this rhetoric to justify the mistreatment and dehumanising kind of factors of stop and search, especially with the Black British community. And the thing is, you're not actually listening to the Black British community. And I think the Met Police are kind of in their own bubble, and they think that they're doing a great job, but they're not being held to account by themselves in the right way, but also the community. And that's where we come in. So it's very important that we hold the police to account and let them know that they are not doing a good job. And the thing is that they need to start listening to the community. There isn't a relationship with the Black British community, and I don't know where this comes from, and this idea of us having a working relationship, because we never have.
But didn't you train some Metropolitan Police officers? I mean, what happened in that interaction? And, you know, are you still doing it? If not, why not?
Well, we've done one session, and that's all we've done so far. We're hoping to get it going in January, but it's taken far too long to get it going. But obviously, that's the first step, obviously, is training the officers. But this goes beyond just the officers. This comes down to education within society and within schools as well, so that people understand the historical context of things like stop and search, and also the history of this country and how it's treated the Black British community. So for me, the sessions were positive that we ran, and it was good to understand the issues that police officers face that are being recruited from mostly rural parts of the UK to come and police in a major city like London with so many different challenges. But again, it's about having those continual discussions and open, honest dialogue and understanding these conscious biases and why, you know, stop and search is fueled by racially profiled, you know, kind of judgments. And that's the problem that we have. So for me, I think there's a long way to go. We have to have a lot of communications with the police, but also we have to hold them to account, and community organisations need to work with the police to actually hold them to account and really push forward.
Commander, I mean, these two men, Victor Elisa and Sace Holmes-Lewis, are not anti-police. They believe in trying to support the police. And obviously, Victor Elisa was a policeman for a long time. You know, how can they be so wrong and so far away from what you're saying?
I think, you know, they're not far away from what they're saying. What they're saying is that we need to work with the communities, which we are doing. And as Sace is saying, we have community members who look at us. We're very scrutinised. They look at our body-worn video, they look at our stop and search slips, they come out with officers. The communities more and more are willing to engage and actually come in and hold us to account. And that's how we build those relationships with people like Sace, who are willing to give up their time to work with us and with the officers to improve that interaction so that we can improve the encounters that we have on stop and search. So that will and that engagement with the community, and that the way the community come in and get involved in what we do, and we get involved in the community, I think is really important, and it's clearly there.
Right, but if you go to your website, you know, that talks about stop and search as a policy, one of your biggest justifications for the policy is the public support. I mean, there's all sorts of figures that you quote there about the levels of public support. Most of those people are white.
There's a number of surveys that are done across Londoners. You know, since 2014, 60,000 Londoners have been surveyed. Over 80% of people support the use of stop and search, and over 70% believe that we do it effectively. Now, I know that there is always more to do, and that there is lower trust and confidence, particularly in the black community. And that is where we are putting our focus to make sure that we can improve that. We want to work with the community. Stop and search is a really important tactic around violence. People carry knives, they carry guns, they carry acid. Those are injuries that will hurt people. Families get traumatised, you know, and life-changing injuries as a result of that. We want to keep the public safe, and stop and search is a really important part of that. But more importantly is how we work with the community to improve those interactions and make it a positive encounter. We do understand the impact that stop and search has, and working with the different communities, we understand that impact more and more.
Sace Holmes-Lewis,
it's absolutely key that we improve on that.
If stop and search gets thousands of weapons off the streets every year and leads to a sizable number of arrests and convictions, may not be the majority, but it's still a lot of people who end up behind bars as a result of stop and search, it's doing some good.
Well, the figures don't allude to that, and the Home Office figures that came out today said that only 76% of stop and searches led to any further action. So the arrests are down by 3% to 13% in terms of that lead to arrests from stop and search. So the figures don't match up to what the Met Police are saying. And there's obviously, if you go to the British Journal of Criminology, there's been a number of papers written on stop and search which showcase that it doesn't actually deter crime. And the thing is that when you're doing it in this sporadic kind of blanketed approach, and it's not based on intelligence or actually based on obviously what it should be, which is evidence, then you're going to actually have a fallout with people that you're targeting, which is the Black British community. And we've been consistently over-policed, under-protected for so many years, and even now we're having the conversation, the Met Police can't actually admit to that these stop and searches are kind of disproportionate, but also that it's targeting and racially profiling and criminalising young black boys, especially during a pandemic and during lockdown. So for me, it's about the police actually agreeing and understanding that, look, we are getting it wrong, and we need to actually improve this going forward.
We must leave it there. Sace, Holmes-Lewis and Commander Jane Connors, thank you both very much indeed for your time.